For this week's show, in discussing February in African American History Month and other related topics, I'm pleased to be joined by Councilwoman at Large, Councilwoman Patricia Perkins-Auguste. Councilman, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mayor. Good to be back on the show.
So what are you doing for Valentine's Day?
Oh, my husband and I will probably go to dinner.
Good, I hope he's paying.
Of course.
Yeah, I got to talk to Clairvaux.
Talk
See
to
what he's
him.
up to. With the kids or without the kids?
Without the kids.
Okay. Send them to my house.
I will.
February, as you know, is African American History Month, and last week you hosted the annual proclamation signing program in City Hall, which held on February 6th. You started this event, Councilwoman. We never did this in the city before.
Well, we started it, actually.
Yeah, but it was your idea, and you should take credit for the idea. And you know, we've implemented it based on your suggestion, and we get over 100 people every year for the flag raising. So tell us a little bit about it, because we have some of the flags out front of City Hall and on Elizabeth Avenue and Broad Street.
Well, as you stated, it was an event that we started back in.
About 10 years ago.
Yeah, about 10 years ago, a little, give or take a couple years.
Right.
And it was basically to, just make everyone aware of all the contributions African Americans have not only given to the city of Elizabeth, not only to the United States, but really worldwide. And just calling attention to some local residents and all what they have done in terms of whether it was the first policeman hired or first fireman hired, or the person who actually designed the flag was Elizabethan. It was Charles Melvin, who worshiped right at Liberty Baptist Church here in the city of Elizabeth back in 1967. To bring all the communities together to say, hey, look, we have a rich, proud legacy here, and we want to share it with everyone.
And Alonzo Jones of our staff emailed me a picture of the first African-American fireman that, since you raised that subject, his name was Charles Stewart.
That's correct.
And I don't know the date he was hired. Alonzo didn't do all that research, so we'll have to work with him on that. But he thinks it was 62 when he was hired. So, but I don't believe he's with us any longer. He's got his final reward.
Right,
so.
But a lot of his family members, they still live in the city of Elizabeth, and they were very appreciative of the fact that we took the time out to recognize their father and their loved one.
So the guest speaker on February 6th, who is that?
It is our friend, a former Elizabethan, Billy Mitchell, who was now in the legislature down in Stone Mountain, Georgia. And he has deep roots here in the city of Elizabeth, which you know about those roots. He got his first, I guess, political bite campaigning or working with Ray Lesniak. Then he was, Senator Lesniak then was campaigning for mayor. And he just, he's a good statesman.
And I ran into Bill Mitchell. Well, he's a senator or an assemblyman in Georgia?
Assemblyman, yeah.
He's an assemblyman in Georgia. I ran into Assemblyman Mitchell at the Democratic Convention a couple of years back in Los Angeles, and he was representing Stone Mountain, Georgia, which is actually interesting because Stone Mountain was a line in one of Dr. Martin Luther King's speeches.
That's right.
Let freedom ring from Stone Mountain, Georgia.
That's right.
I might be paraphrasing.
No, but no, it's
close, though,
yeah, it's
right?
close,
Okay.
yes.
The NAACP hosted the African American flag raising. The origin of the flag you mentioned was designed or partly designed, or he was the designer?
He was the designer along with a friend of his, and they basically back in 1967 designed the flag, again to show cultural pride, to show the cultural struggles of Africans and African Americans who was once enslaved here in America. Now we can fly a flag, representing our independence here in America. And he's a real nice guy. Melvin Charles, he still comes around. He was at the Stephen Sampson Center last year and still talks about, his quest for equality, making sure everyone knows, just about, your own cultural pride is very important.
The colors of the flag, are they symbolic?
Red, of course, is for the blood that was shed. And then there's green for the land in which we left Africa. And then black symbolizes the color of the skin. And then there's some gold. He has gold in, I think, around it, and it symbolizes the richness of our culture.
It's interesting, and it's good to look at those flags during the month of February outside of City Hall. upcoming events that you're involved in besides the flag raising that occurred. And I know you roll a lot of this stuff into Women's History Month in March, right. But we won't get there yet. We'll see if we have time for Women's History Month.
I understand.
But African American History Month, other events going on.
Well, as you mentioned in your opening remarks, United Youth of New Jersey, Charlotte and Kenny Brown, they're having AMBO, the untold story about the slave who was buried here in Union County, actually in Rahway, and that's going to be on Saturday the 19th. On the 24th, your very own, our SOAR program is putting on a huge celebration of African American History Month. And it's for the youth to continue to teach them their own history, to let them interact, and it provides some unity. And then our friend Shade Lee, as you know, our own Tuskegee Airman, he's going to be speaking not only to the youth, but he's also still educating seniors of his own age. So it's a lot of events going on. You know,
last week I took some seniors to the movie with the Tuskegee Airmen, what's the
Red Tails?
Red Tails.
Yes.
And Shade Lee was one of the speakers, who was a Tuskegee Airman. He worked in that unit back in the 1940s, and he's written and spoken a lot about the segregation and the racism of the armed forces in the 1940s. But also extremely proud of the commitment that the Tuskegee Airmen gave to our nation's efforts. He's almost 90 now, I think, right?
Well, I believe he's about 92.
92.
He tipped 90.
He tipped 90.
Yes,
so,
he tipped over,
and he's very honored to speak
he is.
At the Jersey Gardens Theater last week. So it was a great movie, by the way.
It is, yeah.
Filming it now, I mean, Steven Spielberg actually put a lot into this thing.
Right,
so
yeah.
The importance of having events like this in the city. I mean, I was teaching a class last week, and I have a lot of African American students in this semester at Kane University, and we were talking about Plessy versus Ferguson and Brown versus the Board of Education and some of the changes in Supreme Courts. Believe it or not, a lot of them didn't know it. They don't know the history, and it's interesting that what you're trying to do is to make sure young people understand their history.
It's important, so they know in contents of how things evolved and how things can change.
Now, you work with your two boys on history. I mean, I know they're young, but
yes, they're 11 and 13, and like I take them to see things like Red Tails. You know, they've seen the movie, and I asked them, "What did you like about it?" So I try to engage them as often as possible about their history.
And do they interact, or they like my daughter when you start talking about these things? It's kind of like, leave me alone, Dad.
If you do it in the movie contents, or if you take them to a play or something, it's easier to have them interact than sitting down, making them read a book or do something along those lines.
And other organizations that are involved in the planning of these events. I know you work with the different groups. Maybe you can share some of that with us.
The NAACP has been a good collaborator. United Youth in New Jersey, even People Organization for Progress, the Urban League, the Elizabeth Public Library. They're very instrumental each month for all the cultures, but they help out in terms of providing their space. National Council of Negro Women, they get involved. I mean, all the groups really, take part in making sure the cultural aspect is still, present.
Yeah, we're gonna have Ella Teal of the Urban League on next week's show.
Oh, that's great.
Talking about the commitment of the Urban League. Now, if you want any more information about these events, who can they contact?
City Hall. They can contact Alonzo Jones, in our office on at 820-4238. They can contact the city clerk's office, Grace, the ladies there, they have the calendar. They can go on the website, the City of Elizabeth website. So there's a number of venues they can contact.
Councilwoman, we're going to take a break. If you can stay with us, we'll talk more about African American History Month and a few things going along with women's history, and maybe even touch on the upcoming presidential election.
Okay.
Please stay with us. After these messages, we'll be back with Councilwoman at Large, Patricia Perkins-Auguste. Welcome back to our city, where I'm pleased to be joined by Councilwoman at Large, Patricia Perkins-Auguste. And Councilwoman, it's great to be with you, and we're spending time talking about African American History Month. we have the first African-American president ever elected in this country who's up for re-election this year. And there's an awful lot of people out there who think he doesn't deserve re-election. However, there's also in the polls this week or last week showed for the first time that he's beating Mitt Romney by about 8 points. What are your thoughts on his leadership, his accomplishments, and what's going to happen during this upcoming campaign?
Well, first of all, I think he's a highly intelligent, very thoughtful leader, courageous. He took on the health care bill for the country, and that's been around for about 25 years, and he was able to pass it. And it gave a lot of people insurance who never had it before, a lot of children, a lot of families. He's a family person like you and I. He's growing up with small children. He sees the needs. He knows the needs in terms of their educational, their health care. I think he's just an excellent president for our time.
What do you believe when people say we need to take our country back? It's a slap at his ability. I find that has like code words in it that really brings out the worst in people.
Right. You don't even take our country back from what? From whom? From someone who's intelligent? Take our country back from whom? It's just
he's killed Osama bin Laden.
Yes,
he's passed health care.
He did everything.
He's taken out somewhere in excess of 20 Al Qaeda leaders. He's brought the troops home in Iraq. He's ending the war in Afghanistan and getting ready for a transition. Guantanamo Bay is down to somewhere less than 100 or somewhere around there, with more leaving soon. And he said that he would close that. It was the Republicans who actually insisted that it stay open.
Right.
So, he's met an awful lot of his campaign commitments, yet and the unemployment rate has dropped from a high of over 10% down to 8.3%.
That's right. He has created a lot of new jobs in the private sector, at the same time holding the line on government jobs. He has done everything that we need him to do to lead this country into the 21st century. Now, those who oppose him, he's never going to do anything enough for them to make them want to join him. So he just keeps doing what he's doing. He's doing an excellent job. He took a lot of issues head front and just worked his way through them. He's a peacemaker, and
he won the Nobel Peace Prize.
Right. Right.
His first year in office.
Right.
And here's a guy who wins a Nobel Peace Prize, and they find room to criticize him.
Right. So, what can you do about the critics?
Not much. Now,
Not much,
on congressional redistricting, Congressman Donald Payne, who used to represent, I'm going to say half, because I don't know the exact boundaries, but I think it was a little more than half.
Parts of Elizabeth, right.
But congressional redistricting takes him out of Elizabeth. So while he represents the city to the end of the year, on the ballot this year, it's just going to be Albio Series. He'll be the new congressman representing the entire city of Elizabeth. But we've worked with both gentlemen.
Well, I think it's a smack in the face to our city. We're the fourth largest city in the state of New Jersey. And to not have two congressmen fighting and advocating for us in Washington, I'm hoping that it will not hurt us, but I'm believing that it will, because we're the fourth largest city. We have a seaport, none other. We have rail. We have the airport there, part of Port Authority. And for whomever to remove some of that representation, I think it's going to hurt us, Mayor. And that's my take on it. But Congressman Payne, he's a friend of the world. So
I would imagine he's still going to help us.
That's what I was going to say. He is a friend of the world. So if we call on him, he will still help us. That's just the type of person he is. You have a long-standing relationship with him from the time when you two were both on city council, way back,
What do you mean way back?
Well,
Slow down. Come on. Way back.
Way back. And so I think he'll still be there for us, but I think it's a slap. I think it really.
Congressman
I don't
Payne
think
and
it's
I
fair.
worked, yeah,
I don't think it's fair to our city to only be left with one congressperson.
But and Congressman Series is a good representative.
He is a good, and it's taking nothing away. Even if Albio Series was taken away, I'm just saying we are the fourth largest city in the state of New Jersey. We hold the county seat. We have air. We have the best seaport right here. We need our federal representatives working with you. You have done an excellent job, and I think it's because you have had dual support on our representative side. And I think, it's going to be harder going forward to get all those grants. We've got the ICE-T grants and the federal dollars to help some of the stuff that we have going on in the city.
And we touched on this in the first half of the show, Women's History Month.
Oh, yeah.
Something that you've also started in the city of Elizabeth was making sure that the government recognized Women's History Month, which is in the month of March, coming up next month. And we've done programs with urban enterprise zone dollars in the past, but that money's gone away thanks to the governor.
Right, that's true.
So it makes things a little harder to do in Women's History Month. But you've also been working on some events, so tell us about some of the things going on in Women's History Month.
Well, we're still going to be trying to do another Women's History Month this come in the month of March, because last year, because of the change in the financial structure due to the governor, we did have to suspend it. But we are working with the Union County College, working with the Housing Authority and others to make sure that there is a program. You said it, Mayor. The government has to get involved in some of these issues. And women's issues are ever present. Even if we have no money, they are still ever present. You are a strong advocate for domestic violence in terms of assisting women and providing programs. You work with the Y here in the city of Elizabeth one-on-one to make sure that domestic violence is not something that we put under the cover. I mean, we have to, as government, do these issues. We have to provide programming. And the National Council of Negro Women, they do a lot of programming. They're having an event on March 17th to honor local women here in the city of Elizabeth for the work that they do.
St. Patty's Day.
I know.
Uh-oh.
It is, but it's a breakfast. So it's an early morning breakfast at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock. So all the Irish can still,
And your son's named Patrick.
My
in the middle
son's
there.
name is Patrick,
that's right.
Yes.
So he's probably celebrating St.
Yeah,
Patrick's
we will
Day.
be celebrating, yes.
The locally, the issues that resonate with residents. I mean, you voted for a tax cut this year, which is the first time in many years that the city of Elizabeth was able to give the residents a tax cut. Tell us what issues you think resonate with residents.
The typical, perception of safe streets, clean streets, of course taxes being stabilized, the ability to have, job opportunities for the adults and recreational responsibilities for the youth. Those are key things. Affordable housing, which you have, Mayor, under your administration, constantly, aggressively go after affordable housing issues. I think
you're working on a new skate park with the recreation director.
Yes, very important for the city.
We only have one, but it's more for teenagers and
That's
up.
Right.
This one's going to be geared towards the younger kids.
Right, and it's I saw the rendition, and it's a lovely park, and I want to thank you and the recreational director Paul Odessa for his his vision to go forth and work with people in the community to make sure everyone is a buy-in, working with the local church. And it's going to be a very nice project.
Councilwoman, I want to thank you for taking the time to join us on the show. I appreciate all of your insight. And during African American History Month, as well as Women's History Month, you become extremely visible. And not that you're not visible all year long. I don't want you to take it that way.
That's fine.
But there's programs that you clearly step up and shepherd through the government, and I thank you for that leadership.
You're welcome. Thank you for working with you and your administration.
For Councilwoman Patricia Perkins-Auguste, I'm Chris Bolwage. We'll see you next week on another edition of Our City.